With the 59th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select O'Cyrus Torrence, guard out of Florida.
You tell him, Fred Jackson. Welcome into our instant draft reaction presented by Ticketmaster. I'm Maddy Glab, and I'm joined by Bills insider Chris Brown, and the Bills add some depth to their offensive line with the 59th pick. We want to welcome guard O'Cyrus Torrence to Buffalo. Torrence played at Florida and at the University of Louisiana. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. This is a strong and wide offensive lineman who held his own against Jalen Carter. He finished his career without giving up a sack. So, Chris, why does this make sense for Buffalo here in the second round?
Well, you have to remember what Buffalo experienced last season on their offensive line. There were times where there were voids on the interior, defensive lines that were worth their salt, pushed the pocket, collapsed the pocket, forced Josh to be flushed out on the edges and had to extend plays to make them. And I think they want to shore up the pocket for Josh so he can step up into the pocket, not have to flee and roll out of the pocket. And if you want to do that, this guy fits the bill. This is some big beef, people. 330 pounds, as Maddy said. This guy actually is flat-footed. He has very low arches. You say, well, what does that mean? This guy can really anchor because his entire foot is on the ground at all times. And you watch him on tape, people cannot move him. Bull rushes get stoned when they run into O'Cyrus Torrence. So I think if you use him the right way, which is basically put him in a phone booth. This is not a guard that's going to be getting out and pulling on screen plays. He's not a guy that's going to be on the move very much. You put him in a phone booth, you lock him up with a nose tackle, help the center Mitch Morse out. He can do that. And then you want to grind in the run game and go straight ahead. This guy can help you too.
Yeah, my notes on him were he's got strong hands and he can move people out of the way whenever he wants. His strength really shows up on film when you watch this guy. And playing for an SEC school, playing for Florida, facing some really great defensive lines, why do you think this makes him play at an upper level, upper echelon? He's already at a different tier than some other offensive linemen in this draft class because of that.
Yeah, and I got to be honest. You know, I was talking with Steve on One Bills Live today, and he mentioned O'Cyrus Torrence specifically. He was hoping that the Bills could get it. I didn't think he was going to last to the bottom of the round. I thought he was going to go early. There were really only one interior offensive lineman taken in round one last night, Peter Skoronski, up in the top half of round one. So I thought there was going to be a run on guards, and there was. Steve Avila, Matthew Bergeron, Joe Tippmann goes, Cody Mauch goes. So I thought there was going to be a run, and there was in the top half of the round, but O'Cyrus Torrence slipped through the cracks and was available. But this is a kid that started at the University of Louisiana. Then he follows his coach, Billy Napier, to Florida, step up in competition for his last year in college, did not miss a beat playing in the SEC. I got to tell you, to go from the Sun Belt Conference to the SEC is a step up. And he didn't miss a beat. As a matter of fact, he was a consensus All-American and first-team All-SEC. So to do that when you make the leap with a step up in competition, I think that gives the Bills a lot of confidence that this is a guy that can make another step now to the NFL level. And I'm telling you right now, I think he is going to be competition for Ryan Bates and David Edwards. I think Connor McGovern is probably the plug-and-play starter at left guard for this team. But right guard suddenly got a whole lot more competitive with O'Cyrus Torrence here now to compete with Ryan Bates and David Edwards, the free agent signee from the LA Rams.
He was also penalty-free in 2022 per PFF. And guys, I've got to say, he was the second most mocked player to the Bills at number 27. This is a name that we saw early on when the mock draft started to come out, really January, February, and into March. We saw O'Cyrus Torrence being mocked to the Bills over and over and over again. Once we got into April, his name kind of fell off. We didn't really see him mocked to the Bills as much, but the fact that he was still around at number 59 when they had him being mocked to the Bills in the first round, I think that's a big get for the Bills. He fell a little bit because of the fact that, he can't move from guard to tackle. He is a true guard. Like you said, you put him in a phone booth and he's going to go to work and he's going to be a great asset to the offensive line. You said you were surprised at him being there at number 59. Why do you think he fell out of the first round, or why do you think the conversation started about, okay, this is more of a day 2 pick rather than a day 1 pick?
I think it's based on some of what you said, Maddy. He's not position versatile. He is a guard only for all intents and purposes. He doesn't have the feet to play tackle. He doesn't have experience in the center position, and I don't know if he has the lateral agility to slide and help. I mean, he can slide when you're down blocking or you're sliding protection. He can do those things. But this is a guy that's better played in tight spaces. Putting him out on the edge in space is not something he can do. So I think because of his lack of position flex, he slid a little and came off the board after a guy like Steve Avila, who can play guard and center, Matthew Bergeron, who's a tackle/guard, and then you had Joe Tippmann, who's a center guard, who went to the Jets earlier in the round, and then even Cody Mauch has tackle in his background, but is probably going to play guard in the NFL. So I think because of his position specificity, that's why he slid where he was. But, you talked about how when this guy latches on, it's over. The reason why, the guy's got 11.25-inch hands.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like he's wearing boxing gloves, but those are actually his hands.
Once he gets into his blocks, he's not going anywhere unless he has to. I mean, it's impressive to watch him on film. And let's just talk about the offense that he played in at Florida, Chris. I mean, he played for a quarterback who's mobile. He played in an offense that in ways is similar to what the Buffalo Bills do. So inserting an offensive lineman like O'Cyrus Torrence, somebody who understands how an offense is run like the Bills run here, how do you think that helps him in his first and second years with this team?
Well, he's used to plays being extended. That's number one, and we know Josh can extend plays with the best of them. So O'Cyrus Torrence is used to blocking for 4-5 seconds and maybe trying to get out and look for extra work. Your initial blocking assignment, if you take care of that and the guy behind you is still running around trying to make something happen, you go look for extra work. He has experience doing that. So that helps him in that regard, I believe. And then I also think that, you look at the experience level here. Yes, we talked about the step up he made going to Florida, but this is a guy that's played 47 games in the last 4 seasons, and those are all starts. So, I mean, this is a guy that's got enormous experience. I think he comes in as ready as he can be. And I think the other thing that I like is Billy Napier runs a zone scheme down there at Florida. We've seen zone concepts here under offensive line coach Aaron Cromer. So hopefully there's some marriage there that's familiar to him so he can get up to speed that much faster.
He played in 34 games at right guard, 13 games at left guard during his collegiate career. And when you look at the offensive line as a whole now, Chris, I mean, we've made some additions in free agency, and I think after free agency, you looked at this offensive line and went, gosh, this looks like a way better offensive line. With health reasons as well, the offensive line wasn't the healthiest group last year, but you look at the depth that this group has now, and Josh Allen seems like he's going to be a lot more protected this season due to the amount of players that they've added, but also the type of caliber and the type of player that's been added to the offensive line room.
Well, yeah, it's also size and bulk because Connor McGovern is a big man, bigger man than they had in that spot last year at left guard, and then O'Cyrus Torrence, if he ends up winning a starting job, he is a load at 330 pounds. And that's the thing. We were taking calls on the Daily Show this morning, Maddy, or this afternoon, I should say, on One Bills Live, where people were saying, I'd like to get a center. We don't have a backup for Mitch Morse. And I was like, well, hold on a second. I don't know if you need to draft a center per se, because Ryan Bates could be the backup center that comes in there if, God forbid, Morse goes down with an injury. And now you have answers that you can plug in at guard. And that's assuming that Bates wins the right guard job. I'm telling you, David Edwards is a starting caliber player that's played for the Rams for the last 3 years at the guard position. That guy's entering the competition fray here. So this offensive line may be completely different at both guard spots come September with the competition that's here now.
And looking back at the last 2 picks that the Bills have made, their first pick is a tight end in Dalton Kincaid. Their second pick is a guard in O'Cyrus Torrence. Are we starting to see a pattern here, Chris? Are these 2 picks telling you anything about the way that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are thinking up in the draft room right now?
Well, I think they knew that they had to improve the offense to some degree. And I think O'Cyrus Torrence, not only in terms of holding and maintaining the integrity of the pocket and pass protection, but I think he's going to help the run game as well. The thing that I noticed most at the line of scrimmage last year was the Bills' inability to reset the line of scrimmage, if you will, on a run play. Driving people off the line of scrimmage was very difficult at times for the group last year. I think because Roger Saffold was in the twilight of his career, that compromised things on that side. Spencer Brown, we know, got off to a slow start coming off the back surgery. That didn't help. And so now they've added bulk, size, and guys that can drive people off the line of scrimmage 2 yards back. That's going to help people like Damian Harris and James Cook in the run game, most certainly. But I think from an overall perspective, I think they just felt, look, we got to address offense. We've been paying a lot of attention with high picks on defense the last several years. I mean, even last year, Kaiir Elam at the cornerback spot. So I think they felt, hey, let's pay some hearty attention to the offense, especially knowing we don't have a lot of draft capital. Let's get that squared away first and then see what we have left to address the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the last few years, the first picks for the Bills, they've been defensive linemen and a cornerback in Kaiir Elam. And it's good to see this investment also put into the offensive line and the tight end room and the offense as a whole. And, of course, you really don't know how the draft board is going to fall or what their board looks like in the draft room. The first round is pretty unpredictable, especially when you're picking as late as number 27. They move up to number 25 to select Dalton Kincaid. But we were watching this draft and we were watching the second round and we're watching these guys start to come off the board and watching some of the wide receivers come off the board. And you're wondering, okay, who's going to be left for the Bills when they pick at number 59? And it was great to see that a guy like O'Cyrus Torrence was left for the Bills there.
Yeah, I was hoping that there would be good defensive tackle value down there for the Bills at the bottom of the round, but there was a run right in front of them. You saw Keanu Benton go to Pittsburgh at 49. Jervon Dexter from Florida go to Chicago at 53. And then Tui Tuipulotu go to the Chargers at 54. And the run was on, and the value was stripped. So that kind of forced the Bills to pivot and say, what's left for us here? And, you know, I'm sure Brandon Beane at the end of the night tonight will probably be talking about this pick and how they looked at this board. I wonder if this was another situation similar to round one, Maddy, where the amount of second-round grades was dwindling fast. You know, if he said yesterday, if Kincaid went, we were trading out. I wonder if it wasn't a similar situation here in round two. If O'Cyrus Torrence went off the board before they picked, would the Bills have been looking to move out again?
And he said he really liked the names in day two, and that day two was a good spot for teams to draft. And that's also what we've heard from a lot of draft analysts is hey, the bulk of this group, the bulk of this draft class is going to be in the second and third round. That's where you're going to get a lot of value in different positions with different names. And the second round starts, and you start to see a lot of these names that maybe we have thought, oh, this name could make sense in Buffalo for whatever reason. And a lot of those names started to go. I want to ask you about the AFC East, because I think it's been interesting to watch what the AFC East has done in this draft. The Bills go 2 offensive picks in their first 2 picks of the draft, and we've seen the Jets and the Patriots and the Dolphins focus on defense.
Right. The Jets finally made an offensive
Yes.
pick with Joe Tippmann here in the second round, which is a nice pickup for them. They did re-sign their center, Connor McGovern, who's not the same Connor McGovern that the Bills have, obviously. But he signed a 1-year deal, so Joe Tippmann is clearly the center of the future and may end up winning that starting job in training camp. But yes, you're right. Like New England has focused on defense. That was where their needs lied, cornerback, defensive line, and they addressed those. They got Keon White, the pass rusher from Georgia Tech, who goes about 281 pounds. That's a fit in a 3-4 system. So that was a nice pick by them for what they needed. And, you know, Miami goes corner because their corners are getting a little up there in age. I mean, yes, they traded for Jalen Ramsey, but he's on the wrong side of 30 now. And Xavier Howard is approaching 30 years old as well. They tried to pump some youth into the cornerback position a couple of years ago in the draft with Noah Igbenogany, but he has been a colossal disappointment as a first-round draft choice. So they go to the well again. And I like the corner that they picked, Cam Smith. Super athletic kid, runs really fast, jumps really high, ball hawk of a player. That's a very good pick for Miami for their first pick in the draft.
Cam Smith was a name that was mocked to the Bills a couple times also in the first round, got into the second round, and the Miami Dolphins end up picking him up. With where the Bills are at, we've got one more pick right now so far in the third round. That's pick number 91. Where are you thinking? Where does your head go when you start to think about what could be available? I know we're still far away. We're into the beginning of the third round. I believe the Eagles are on the clock at number 65. So is there anywhere you're thinking right now quickly before we go to O'Cyrus Torrence?
I mean, I think if there's some defensive tackle position that makes sense, that's fine.
Okay.
Linebacker's another position that could start to make sense, although I would anticipate a run in the top half of the round on those since not too many have come off the board. Corner is a deep class, so you might be able to find value there, even though you're not pressing for one. And then safety is another position that we really haven't heard a lot of because it's not considered a strong class, but the value for that class was deemed to be coming up in round 3, so maybe that's an option.
All right, well, O'Cyrus Torrence is meeting with the media for the first time, so we'll send it right over to him.
Can you tell us a little bit about your interactions with the Bills, the organization, throughout the draft process leading up to tonight?
It was a lot of interaction for me and the Buffalo. I had a formal interview with him at the Combine, met him at the Senior Bowl, and took a 30 visit to him. And it was just a lot of meeting with the coaches and just getting a feel for like the environment and the culture they built over there. So I mean, we definitely built a good relationship in this process. So I mean, I was a little shocked not shocked when they called him, but excited. But it wasn't too much of a shock because we had a great relationship throughout this whole process.
And how has playing in the SEC against some of the defensive linemen you've played against prepared you for the jump to the next level?
I feel like it prepared me a lot for it because it got me ready for the switch and like the change in body type because of just the strength and like the size of so many of the guys in SEC. I feel like just the repetition I was able to get against those guys helped me out a lot, and definitely I'm a benefit from that in this next part of my journey.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you.
Sure, thank you.
O'Cyrus Torrence, Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080, man. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I mean, just tell us what has been this process, what this process been like for you, and how excited were you to know that it was the Bills on the phone?
It's been a wild ride. I mean, it's been like up and down. I say like this nerves be through the ceiling one day, just exciting and just nervous, it's all in one. So I mean, definitely something I remember forever. But also I was able to enjoy it. When I got the call, it's just like it just felt right. I mean, I didn't know it was Buffalo at the time when I answered it. Then they said it was Buffalo. That's when my heart started beating real fast. And I'm like, yeah, this is it now. Like I'm officially going to be a Bill, we're part of Bill's Mafia, and then that's when it started hitting me for real. So I'm still soaking in my family right now.
Absolutely, man. And what is it about your game that you can add to this Bills team?
I feel like my game just the aggression of how I play. Coming off the ball, my explosiveness and speed coming off, and seeing how this offense is the variety of the offense range a lot. So I feel like I'm gonna fit in pretty well with that, being able to pass protect pretty well. I'm a good pass block. I feel like it. Then it's still also with just the guys I'm gonna be around with. I feel like gonna help up my game to the guys I'm playing next to me, to the guys I'm blocking for. I feel like all this is gonna help me play even better, just raise my ceiling even higher.
No doubt, man. Hey, congratulations. Enjoy it. See you tomorrow.
All right, yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, O'Cyrus, Matt Bove with WKBW here in Buffalo. Congratulations and welcome to Buffalo. As you get the call, I know you had mentioned you met with the team 3 different times. What did you know about the Bills, and what have you learned about the Bills along the process?
I learned that they had a very special culture there. Like they're building something very special. Like they've been working on it for a while with Coach McDermott, and just the way the whole organization itself has shifted over the past few years is just something I've noticed in this process when I've been able to see from my eyes how and why it's shifting like that, just because of the pieces they bring in, like the guys they bring in, the coaches and things like this. So that's something I've been able to notice in this process of meeting with them.
Aside from the coaching staff, any of the players in particular that you're especially looking forward to playing with?
A few of them. I mean, I'm very looking forward to blocking for Josh Allen, of course. There's some of the other guys that was there. Some of the defensive guys I'm gonna be able to go against in practice. It's just it's just a lot of emotions going on right now. But the first thing that came to my mind was blocking for Josh Allen. I mean, what offensive lineman don't want to do that? So yeah, that's probably the main thing.
For sure. Thank you, man. Congratulations.
Very appreciate it.
Hey, O'Cyrus, Catherine Fitzgerald from the Buffalo News. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on some of what you were saying about your style of play too, and how the Bills offense is so versatile, where do you think like your multiple stops in college have helped you kind of develop that style of play to bring to the next level with this offense in particular?
I feel like just from playing the Sun Belt to the SEC, like the styles of each conference is so different, and being able to play in both those styles in the same offense, I feel like helped me out and to be the type of player I am, and just being able to be versatile in different settings. And I feel like the transition of me switching from the Sun Belt to the SEC is definitely going to play a role in me being able to play how I need to play in that offense based on whether it's throwing a lot, running a lot, or a mixture of both. I feel like I'm going to be able to adjust and perform well in it.
And then where were you for your draft party? Like who all was there? What was that moment like for the people around you?
I was back home in Louisiana. Then it was just a bunch of close family and friends, my agents and stuff. It was just a surreal moment, just a lot of exciting and a lot of just screaming and yelling. First when I first got the call, but then it was one time everybody screamed yeah, but then when they called me on the TV, that's when everybody jumped up and screamed again. So it was like 2 rounds of celebrating. But I mean, it was fun.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, O'Cyrus, John Worrell with the Associated Press. Congratulations. Look like you're having a fun time.
Yes, sir,
I am. Now, just talking about making the transfer from your, home state, Louisiana, to go to Florida, the challenges of doing that, and what was, and just to play at the SEC level, how important was it to see yourself wanting to prove yourself and take that next step in a higher conference?
I feel like it was very important for not only like to show people that I can play in the SEC and at H level, but also just for me as a player, just to prove to myself of how good I feel like I am and believe I am. Just being able to go in the SEC and dominate and be able to be as good as a player as I was in the Sun Belt, just kind of proved that and just shows that my ceiling is higher than originally thought. And I got a lot more to work on, of course, but it definitely showed that I'm willing to get better, and I'm definitely planning to come in Buffalo and work and just try to get better each day.
And just lastly, did I read that correctly? You've never allowed a sack in your college career?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and congrats.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sure.
Hey, O'Cyrus. Elena Getzenberg with ESPN. Congratulations, as everyone said. I was curious, when you've talked to the Bills in all your meetings, have they said specifically where they'd like you to play, or have they gotten into that much particular with you?
They just particularly just in the inside was most likely projected to play there. I talked with the coaches. I mean, a lot throughout this process, so I could see myself playing in any of the 3 interior positions, but maybe even tackle positions if they deem me to. I played tackle before, so really anywhere they need me to play, I feel like I have the ability to just work at it and be able to be the player they need at their position when they need it.
You said that when you realized it was the Bills, your heart started really beating quickly. Was this a fit you were hoping for, something you kind of hoped might work out?
Yeah, because I took a trip up there, then like just from going up there, just the familiarity of being around the coaches and just the area itself, like it was a nice area and I liked it. So when I got the call and I realized it was them, that's when I just started thinking about everything else of staying up there, being around the people, just all that stuff started going through my head. So yeah, definitely my heart started racing a little bit, but it come down a little bit.
Awesome. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Hey, O'Cyrus, it's Catherine again. Just to follow up on Elena's question, was there like one moment during that visit that you were especially like, okay, this feels really great? Obviously knowing there was still the whole draft to come, but like, was there a particular moment that really stood out?
Probably just the one-on-one meetings I had with the coach, with the head coach, Coach McDermott, and the GM. Yes, it was. We had it at lunch or after, and then just the formality of the meeting, just how it felt and how smooth it went. Just it felt right. I felt like I was the right fit for the type of culture they're building there in Buffalo. So I mean, I had some pretty good moments throughout my visit there, but that part was my favorite moment. That part of it right there.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, O'Cyrus, Alex Bradski with the Batavia Daily News. Any of your teammates reach out to you yet?
Oh, it's most likely a lot of them have. I'm getting calls and messages right now while I'm on a Zoom. So a bunch of them reached out to me. I'm gonna slowly reply back to them overnight. But yes, I definitely got some text messages and stuff.
Now I'm looking at your info sheet here. Family is a big thing to you. Can you kind of elaborate on that and how this is a moment not only for you but your entire family?
It's definitely a moment for my entire family, just as much as it is for me. Just for them to be proud of the man I've become, and just the work I put in, and just for them to like be able to see it, just to see the joy on my face, just the just the overall feeling you get getting the name called, and not too many families get to be in that moment. So just being able to cherish my family with that moment of my hard work being my name called and just being in the spotlight, I feel like it's just something they're going to be able to cherish the rest of their lives just as well as I am.
All right, thanks a lot. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions we have tonight. Thanks.
All right, that was offensive lineman O'Cyrus Torrence. Man, did he seem so excited. That smile, I really loved hearing him talk about his visit to Buffalo and how he loved the area and had really good meetings with Coach McDermott and Brandon Beane. That's what you want to hear from a guy. He said when the Bills were on the clock and they called him, his heart started to race because he was excited about the pick. I love that he sees himself on this offensive line and a fit in the interior for this team.
Yeah, and his best answer was, I'm looking forward to blocking for Josh Allen. Great answer. And then he said, what offensive lineman would not want to do that? Great answer again. So he's hitting all the high points from that standpoint. And I think it's also worth noting here, Maddy, there's only so many players that they can interview at the Combine. They can meet with everybody who's at the Senior Bowl, and they have to pick 30 people to bring in on pre-draft visits. O'Cyrus Torrence was on every one of those lists. They met with him at the Senior Bowl. They met with him at the Combine, and they had him here on a pre-draft 30 visit to bring him around. They did their homework on him. I don't know if they felt better about any other prospect in the draft than this guy, based on how they literally went wall to wall and canvassed his entire background and spent time with him to make sure they knew the person they were getting as much as the player.
And you could hear that in the way he was explaining his familiarity already with this team, with the building, with the coaching staff. I mean, when you meet with somebody 3 times, these guys are meeting with so many different teams throughout this process, starting at the Senior Bowl and then going on to the Combine. They're in meetings all day at the Combine once they begin talking to coaching staffs. And to hear that he felt like this kind of already felt like home for him, I think is really great for somebody who's heading to Buffalo and will hopefully have a role on this offense this season. Anything else that stood out to you from that press conference that we learned about O'Cyrus Torrence?
I think he didn't want to say it clearly, but based on the impact, the feedback from the coaches, this guy's a guard. Like, I don't think he's lining up anywhere else. He is a guard, and that's where he's going to line up. He said, I'm going to be on the interior. I mean, I suppose they could have him practice snapping the football. They do like to cross-train a lot of their linemen on the interior, and very often when we go out to practice, Maddy, even in the fall, during the season, those linemen are out there early, and there's 3 or 4 guys snapping the football because you don't know what can happen in a game. You're only dressing 8 guys, probably only 4, 5 tops on the interior, so you may need more than 1 guy that knows how to snap the football, depending on how injuries shake out sometimes in given weeks. So I guess maybe that's something they may want to look at long term, but he's a guard first and foremost, and that's where I think they're going to stick him here in year 1.
He's got a nickname. It's Cybo. It used to be Cyborg. His mom started to call him Cyborg, and it changed to Cybo once he got into football, I believe. Do you like the nickname? I think I kind of like it for the size and the fit.
Yeah, he's got great initials though. OT.
OT.
I would have gone that way, but I'm fine with Cybo. I'm not going to criticize it.
No.
It's a good one.
I'm a fan of that.
If Mom came up with it, am I going to argue? Heck no.
We cannot argue that. That is a fact. All right, coming up next, we've got pick number 91 so far for the Bills. So that's in the 3rd round. Let me see where we're at right now. I believe we are into the late 60s right now.
We're in the late 60s.
So
Tank Dell is going to go to Houston with the 69th pick. So we'll see if wide receivers start getting plucked off the board here, if that prompts a run of any kind. In the last round, we saw 4 tight ends and 5 guards go, counting O'Cyrus Torrence. There was also a mini run on cornerbacks in the 2nd round. So we'll see what shakes out here. I think there's still some defensive value. We should mention that Drew Sanders did come off the board. He went to Denver with pick 67. So linebacker, there's a lot of people are of the feeling that there's a drop-off after Jack Campbell and Drew Sanders, who went 2 rounds apart from one another. I think for interior off-the-ball linebackers, it's a thin class, and you have to be willing to take a smaller player going forward here. How comfortable teams are with that, we'll see.
Speaking of smaller, Trenton Simpson is a smaller linebacker. He's kind of a roamer, kind of a guy who can play multiple positions. He was mocked to the Bills in one of Mel Kiper's mock drafts. He's still available. We'll see if that's a name that the Bills want to target. Again, they're quite a ways away from that pick at number 91, so we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a run on wide receivers or any other position, or that safety position that you talked about being this is where the value is in the 3rd round. We are going to be back right after we draft that 3rd round pick. So tune in, stick around, turn on the NFL Draft on NFL Network. That's where you can catch it. That's what's happening right now. We're going to be live also with Brandon Beane and that 3rd round pick to wrap up the evening as a whole. So come back here in an hour or so. Hopefully it's an hour. We don't know how long it's going to take. But enjoy the next couple picks. Enjoy the 3rd round, and we'll see you after pick number 91. For Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. Come hang with us here shortly.